I spent nearly $3,000 organizing a birthday party for my nephew, but my daughter wasn't invited. It wasn't a system glitch. It wasn't a mistake. It was intentional. Everyone received an invitation, except Mary. She had spent 3 straight weeks, folding every napkin, choosing each piece of candy, and designing every welcome sign. And yet, the very child who helped create the party was deliberately erased from it. The reason? Because she uses a wheelchair and might kill the vibe for the other kids. Yes. That's exactly how my sister explained it. Casually. As if Mary weren't even a real person. In the first week of planning, Mary was beyond excited. She's 13, with a natural knack for organization and an artistic eye she inherited from my late mother, a former event decorator from New Jersey. Every afternoon after school, Mary would sit at the dining table with her laptop open, Canva glowing with cute little designs she carefully tweaked. Some nights she stayed up past 10 o'clock just to find dinosaur-pitted ribbons that matched the party theme. I remember one Saturday morning, I had just brewed my coffee when Mary rolled out of her room, grinning ear to ear. "Mom, I think instead of lollipops we should do chocolate bones. Kids are gonna love it." I smiled and nodded. "Brilliant, you're totally this house's creative director." Mary never asked for anything. She never once asked when the invites would be sent. Never asked what her role would be. She just did. With the pure enthusiasm and love of a child wanting everything to be perfect for her cousin. I transferred $1,500.00 for the venue, $400.00 for a 3-tier cake, $180.00 for custom name tags and a photo backdrop, and another $820.00 for toys, balloons, and party favors. I documented everything in a detailed Excel spreadsheet. It wasn't just money. It was effort, emotion, expectation, and most of it was for Mary. One evening, as she folded cloth napkins into stars, Mary looked up and asked softly, "Mom, do invitations usually go out last minute?" I paused for a split second, keeping my voice steady. "Yeah, probably soon, sweetie." "I'll check." I said it, but my heart skipped a beat. A mother's instinct is never wrong. I picked up my phone and called my sister. "Jenna," putting it on speaker. Mary kept folding napkins into little spirals, her eyes lighting up at each one. Jenna answered after 3 rings. "Wow, perfect timing, I just finished labeling the kids' place cards." "Hey, quick question, Mary said she hasn't seen her invitation yet, did you send it?" Silence. A silence sharp enough to stab. Then Jenna exhaled. Tyler said, she doesn't really need to come." I froze. What? He just wants a light-hearted, fun party, and with the wheelchair and all, I thought it might be too heavy. I mean, it'd be hard for her to get around, crowded space. You get it, right? Mary stopped folding. I looked at her, saw her shoulders trembling, but her eyes stayed locked on the fabric, like she was determined to finish the one last task before they could take even that from her. I didn't say another word, I just quietly ended the call. The kitchen was filled only with the hum of the dishwasher and Mary's birthday playlist playing from her phone. A silly dinosaur remix that now felt like mockery. She still didn't look up. "Tyler doesn't want me there." She said it so calmly it chilled me. No question, no doubt, just a statement, spoken by a child trying to swallow pain like an adult. I clenched my fists under the table until my knuckles turned white. But I didn't cry. Because if I broke down, Mary might think she was the reason. She wheeled herself to her room, closing the door with a quiet click that broke my heart. I stayed in the kitchen, staring at the perfectly folded napkins shaped like stars, lined up neatly like surrender flags. Each one a testament to my daughter's work, and the cruel dismissal she'd just received. We thought we were helping, but really we were just extras in a scene that cut us out of the frame. I sat still on the gray velvet chair, clutching my phone, screen long dark. My heart pounded. Not from shock, but from something far worse. The rising bile of rage mixed with helplessness. Why was Mary excluded? Because she uses a wheelchair. My 13-year-old daughter, the one who tied every ribbon, designed the name tags, picked every candy wrapper, was left out. Because her image might ruin the mood. I laughed, dry, bitter. Then I felt nauseated. In my head, I saw Mary again, hunched over her laptop, editing fonts for the sign. Welcome to Tyler's Dinosaur World. Her eyes glowing with excitement. She believed she was part of something, only to be treated like she never existed. I walked to her door. A sliver of light peeked underneath. I knocked gently. Sweetie, can I come in? No answer, just cold silence. I pushed the door open. Mary sat with her back to me, hands resting on her wheels. She wasn't crying, but her shoulders were rigid and her head bowed, like she was trying to shrink into nothing. I sat beside her, placing my hand on her back. I'm so sorry. She didn't reply, but her breathing was heavy, like each inhale was a blow to the chest. After a moment, Mary spoke, her voice steady, quiet, like she'd rehearsed it. They don't want me there. No, that's not. It is. Tyler said it. Aunt Jenna agreed. You don't have to dress it up. I was silent. No words could fix this. Mary turned to face me, her gaze was colder and deeper than I'd ever seen. I thought, at worst, they just forgot. But they didn't. I was chosen to be left out. No one has the right. They already did it, Mom. I wanted to hug her, but I knew, right now, space meant more than arms. She wheeled toward the table, picked up the box of ribbons and bows she'd used to decorate the gift bags, placed it down, gently. But that clack said it all. I'm done. I watched her throat, burning. Not because she was angry, but because I'd never seen her this defeated. Mary, the same child who giggled when picked as sound coordinator for the school fair, who hugged me tight after getting an A in art, now sat there, isolated, like a puzzle piece forced out of the picture. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay awake beside the glowing spreadsheet of party expenses, looking at the endless numbers, felt like getting slapped by every dollar I'd spent. I had paid for my child's heartbreak. I hired a magician, ordered a buffet and bought party favors, only to receive a blank invitation for Mary. I should have asked sooner. I should have noticed how Jenna always dodged the topic whenever I mentioned Mary in the family group chat. I was too busy being the kind older sister, too used to fixing everyone's problems, that I didn't see my own child being quietly erased from a world that should have included her. I shut the laptop, got out of bed and walked to the window. Outside, the restaurant 2 blocks away still had its lights on. I wondered, if the party went as planned, would anyone even mention Mary? Or would they just call it Jenna's party, for Tyler, with every perfectly decorated detail, without anyone realizing the person who created it had been cut from the picture? Mary would just be a shadow. I couldn't let that happen. The next morning, Mary sat eating cold cereal, eyes locked on her iPad, but I knew her mind was far away. I placed a glass of orange juice in front of her. Sweetie, I think we shouldn't go. Mary nodded, unsurprised. Yeah, I think so too. I looked at her for a long moment. But we'll send a gift. For the first time since that day, Mary looked up. What kind of gift? I shrugged. Something unforgettable. Mary narrowed her eyes. Like a sabotage gift? I laughed. Not sabotage, just the truth. She pressed her lips together, then gave a small nod. I don't want them to forget me, but I don't want to beg to be remembered either. And you won't have to, I promise. Mary nodded again, her eyes softened, but I could still see the unhealed hurt beneath. I knew we wouldn't retaliate. We would tell the story in a way no one could ignore. That morning, as Mary wheeled herself to the dining table, I was already there. With a plain white box in the center, no ribbons, no patterns. Just one bold black marker line, Tyler. Mary rolled up, eyes scanning the box. "We're still sending a gift, Mom?" I nodded. "Yep, but not the kind they're expecting." She raised an eyebrow, tilting her head like she was trying to read me. "Does it explode?" I laughed. "No, but it'll definitely make an impact." Mary paused, then smiled. A mix of bitterness and boldness. "As long as I'm not the only one who remembers that day." I looked at my daughter, 13 years old, with a heart that had just been stomped on. And I knew. This time, we wouldn't stay silent. That afternoon, I took Mary to a small electronics store a few blocks away. She wheeled through the aisles, her fingers trailing across screens like she was looking for something familiar. "Which tablet has the best camera?" she asked the sales clerk. Voice firm. He blinked, then replied quickly. "This one. It records in HD, clear audio, strong battery." We bought it. Paid with a card, no hesitation. Because this time, the truth would be the most powerful gift of all. Back home, Mary set up the tablet on a tripod in the living room. I sat across from her, watching as she tested lighting and adjusted the angle. When everything was ready, Mary took a deep breath and looked straight into the lens. No script, no rehearsal. Just my daughter speaking with a calm that chilled the air. "Hi, I'm Mary. I helped prepare a lot for Tyler's upcoming birthday party. I chose the candy colors, designed the signs, tied each ribbon on the gift bags. I was really excited to go, until I found out I wasn't invited. Why? Because I use a wheelchair." I held my breath. Mary didn't flinch. Not a single tear. Just eyes shining like floodlights on things people wanted hidden. "I'm not saying this to make anyone feel guilty. I just want people to know, this happens. And not just to me. It could be any kid who's seen as not the right fit." At the end, Mary smiled. Not a sad smile, but one of quiet strength. "So we're having a party too. Somewhere else. With cake, with music, and where everyone is welcome. The address is on the back of this gift. If you believe every kid deserves a seat at the table, you know where to go." We edited the video, added soft piano music, clips of Mary making crafts and packing goodie bags. When it was done, I loaded it onto the tablet and placed it in the box. I labeled it Tyler in gold marker, handwriting soft and curved like Mary's own. No anger, no threats, just the chilling honesty of truth. Saturday morning, the day of the party, I got a message from Jenna. "Don't forget 2 p.m., there's parking by the back entrance." My dad replied. I didn't care about parking. Because by then Mary and I were at home. Pitching a fabric tent in the backyard, tying balloons to the fence, blasting cheerful music from a Bluetooth speaker. No fancy venue, no stage magician. Just real grass, real laughter, and a small group of people who genuinely wanted to be there for Mary. I'd called a few parents who had always been kind to Mary at school. They didn't hesitate. Some even brought extra cake, snacks, and folding chairs. We set up a small hand-painted sign Mary made. "Everyone is welcome, no matter who you are." By 2:30 p.m., I glanced at my watch. At the main party they were probably cutting the cake. And right in the middle of the gift table, there would be a white box, standing out among all the shiny wrapping, with glittering gold letters, "From Mary." I imagined someone opening it out of curiosity. The tablet screen lights up. The video begins. The whole room falls silent, like the sound has been sucked out. The truth doesn't need to shout, it just needs to be played. I looked at Mary. Today she wore her favorite green dress and a sparkly beaded headband. Her little brother Ryan was manning the cotton candy stand. Laughter echoed across the yard. A brown-haired girl ran up and hugged Mary. The video was so cool. Mary smiled, the first time I'd seen that smile return since the day the invitation never came. I didn't need to know what people were saying at the other party. I only knew. Our gift had arrived exactly where and when it was meant to. And this time, they wouldn't be able to pretend Mary never existed. As I folded the wool blanket and tossed it into the laundry basket, my eyes drifted to the empty white box sitting in the corner of the living room. the same box that had carried the gift which shook that entire party. And suddenly, it all came back. Not just yesterday, but the years before that. The years when I still believed Jenna was my sister. When I thought blood ties could heal all wounds. Jenna once showed up at my apartment door on a fall evening, mascara smudged, eyes bloodshot, one hand cradling her belly like she was trying to hold together something that was falling apart. "I'm pregnant." That was the first thing she said. Not hi, not can you help me. Just that. I let her in without another question. At the time, I had just given birth to Mary a few months earlier. I was still figuring out how to be a mom for the first time, still hadn't slept more than 3 hours a night. But I looked at Jenna, frazzled, panicked, lost. And I knew if I didn't step up, she would collapse. She stayed in my 1.5-bedroom apartment for 8 months, paid nothing, couldn't even afford toilet paper. I covered everything: prenatal vitamins, OB appointments, breakfasts, supplements. Back then I thought I was doing the right thing. I was the older sister, the responsible one. I believed sacrifice was how you held a family together. But no one ever tells you that sacrifice without acknowledgement only turns you into an invisible backdrop. When Tyler was born, Jenna left with the baby as if she'd never lived there. A week later she sent one short message. "Josh and I decided to be independent. Hope you understand." No thank you, no mention of me or Mary. After that, everything became clearer. Jenna started drawing boundaries. "I don't want to rely on you forever, it's exhausting." Funny though, every time there was a party, birthday, Thanksgiving, Jenna called me. Not to invite me, but to ask for help. When Tyler turned 3, I ordered the cake. When he turned 6, I wrapped every tiny favor box. When he turned 10, Jenna sent a detailed to-do list, broken down by the hour. And me, like a fool, still agreed. Still thought if I was good enough, loyal enough, Jenna would finally see me. I remember my mother used to say, "You are so accommodating, so thoughtful, you were born to be someone's rock." Back then I felt proud, now I feel disgusted. Because being the rock wasn't a compliment. It was a sentence. That I would always carry the weight, so no one ever had to carry mine. I thought back to the times I pushed Mary's wheelchair through the park, while Jenna turned away when people stared. To Mary's 5th grade graduation, when Jenna showed up an hour late, and asked if we could cut Mary's speech short, so no one would get tired. I stayed silent, I always did. I told myself, be the adult, take it. But the price of that silence? Mary paid it. Because every time I let something slide, I taught her that she didn't deserve to be prioritized. That if she didn't fit the mold of easygoing, easy to handle, easy to forget, then she'd be left out. The afternoon after the party, or more accurately, after 2 simultaneous parties, I sat taking down sagging balloons, while Mary quietly packed leftover cake. Ryan folded chairs, grumbling as he worked. Hope their cake collapsed. I didn't scold him. I wasn't going to suppress real feelings anymore. I just looked at Mary. She was wiping the last glass jar of candy, her eyes calm, but inside, a silent ocean churned. I knew she still hurt. "Do you think people will see things differently?" Mary asked. "Not everyone will, but some will." "What about Tyler?" I didn't answer. Mary nodded. "I get it." That night I lay on the couch, hugging the old blanket Mary used as a baby. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "The girl in the video is so brave, truly inspiring." I stared at the screen and tears filled my eyes. Not because of the compliment, but because someone had seen Mary. Not the wheelchair, not Jenna's niece, not the difficult kid. Just her. And I knew I couldn't go back to being the burden bearer. Because if I didn't stand up, who would teach Mary that she had the right to exist, without asking permission? I sat in front of my laptop, staring at the spreadsheet I'd carefully built over 3 weeks. Each expense was a promise that I was helping create a beautiful memory for the family. But now, it looked like a list of accusations. I had spent nearly $3,000 helping throw a party that excluded my child. And I swore not a single cent of that would go to waste. I opened my email and typed the first lines. Hello, due to a last-minute change, we'll need to adjust the party location. We would appreciate your help in coordinating the new site. The first person I messaged was Nick, the guy in charge of the cotton candy booth and instant photo setup. He had done Mary's birthday party last year and left a great impression. No problem at all, he replied. Just send me the new address. Next was Steph, the magic show coordinator. Oh, it's for Mary? That's awesome. Let me call Chris, the magician. He'll love this. In just one morning, I managed to gather nearly all the items I had booked. The photo booth, candies, the balloon stand, even the kids' ukulele band. Everything was redirected to my backyard. That afternoon I called a few parents I truly trusted. Not many, just those who had once looked at Mary with real concern, not just polite pity. I told them the truth. No dramatization, no sugarcoating. Silence. Then one voice, trembling. I had no idea. I sensed something was wrong, but I didn't know how to ask. Another chimed in. Mary deserves a day that's hers. I'll bring those brownies she loves. And just like that, we got started. The morning of the party, I woke up at 5 a.m., hauling bags of supplies out to the yard. Mary wheeled behind me, hugging the same planning notebook she had used to prep Tyler's party, now being recycled for her own. I think we should hang the welcome sign on the apple tree. Everyone will see it right away. I nodded. Good idea. What about the lights? Wrap 'em around the fence, it'll look like a stage. Ryan, Mary's younger brother, dragged a wooden wagon filled with balloons of every color, shouting as he tied them. Mary's the VIP today, no gift, no entry. Mary burst out laughing, though her eyes shimmered with emotion. By late morning the first guests began arriving. 2 of Mary's classmates came carrying a box of cookies and a hand-drawn card that read, "Thank you for saying what we were too scared to." Then a group of parents showed up, some with chairs, others with food. A tall, thin man approached me and set down a box of juice. "I'm Ellie's dad," she cried after watching the video. Said Mary is a hero. Honestly, I think she's right. I gently squeezed his hand, too moved to speak. By around 2 p.m. our backyard was full. Kids ran around everywhere, ukulele music floated from the garden corner. Magician Chris was performing card tricks and coin illusions. Mary sat at the center table in an emerald green dress, her hair tied high, wearing a sparkling yellow headband. She looked like a true queen. No one mentioned the wheelchair. No one asked, how does she get around? Only voices saying things like, Mary, did you paint this sign? It's beautiful. You tie bows better than I do. How did you pick the perfect playlist? I stood from a distance, clutching a cold lemonade. The feeling inside me was strange. Not quite joy, not quite anger anymore. It was relief. For the first time in a long time, Mary was truly seen. I didn't care what was happening across town at Jenna's party. But I knew. In the center of that gift table sat a white box. And inside it was a truth no one could ignore. And I also knew, with every passing minute, everyone over there was being forced to look inward. We didn't have to go there to get revenge. Because the truth knows how to walk into a room. On time, in the right way. With the weight it deserves. Toward the end of our party, Mary looked at me, her cheeks flushed with excitement. This feels like a dream. I smiled. It's real. And I get to be part of it. You're not just part of it. You're the reason they're all here. Mary hesitated. I think this is the first birthday where I didn't feel like I had to pretend. My throat tightened. I bent down and hugged her tightly. From across the yard, Ryan shouted. Gift time, if you're not here, you miss your turn. Laughter erupted, glasses clinked, the scent of apple pie drifted on the breeze. It was a simple party. But for us, it was magic. Because for the first time, Mary wasn't left outside the frame. I couldn't picture exactly what was happening across town, at the party I had helped build with sweat, time, and nearly $3,000, but one thing I knew for sure. Nothing was going according to plan anymore. At 2:45 p.m., just as I was helping Mary adjust the ribbon in her hair, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number lit up the screen. The video, oh my God, did you see everyone's faces? Before I could reply, Ryan came running in from the backyard, face lit like a Christmas tree. "Mom," someone said, "they're turning off the music over there." Someone asked why Mary wasn't there. Mary froze. "Really? Really? Someone even filmed it." "Uncle Danny said his brother is over there. Everyone's gathered around the gift table." I grabbed my phone and opened our school parents' Facebook group, where a few familiar names were still posting updates from the main party. And then, I saw it. A short clip, not the clearest, but enough to make out the white box sitting right in the center of the gift table. A little girl with curly hair and an orange bow pointed to it. "This one's the prettiest, open it." Someone lifted the lid. For a second the whole room seemed to hold its breath. The tablet screen lit up. The video autoplayed. Soft piano music began, and the first image appeared. Mary, sitting at her desk, soft lighting casting across her calm face and steady gaze. "Hi, I'm Mary. I helped prepare a lot for this birthday party. I picked the candy, tied the bows, folded the napkins, and helped design the welcome sign. I was excited to go." A pause. "But I wasn't invited, because I use a wheelchair." Whispers began to rise. One mom in the clip raised her hand to cover her mouth. A young boy exclaimed, "What?" Mary continued, her voice steady but her eyes cutting through the crowd like light. "I'm not sharing this to make people feel bad. I just want the truth to be known. Because if it happened to me, then it's probably happened to other kids, the ones who don't fit the mold." Then she smiled. Not with bitterness. Just a simple, direct invitation. If you believe every child deserves to be included, then today, we're having a party too. Somewhere where everyone is welcome. At the end of the video, white text appeared over a black screen. The address is on the back of the box. The next scene in the secretly recorded clip showed round, stunned faces frozen in silence. No one moved. Then a man's voice whispered, "I can't believe this. Is this real?" A woman shook her head. "I thought she was sick. Turns out, it was on purpose?" Just a few minutes later, one mother stood up and pulled her son with her. "We're leaving, we can't stay here anymore." Another couple whispered to each other, quickly gathering their things. And just like that, families began to leave. No yelling. No drama. Just retreat. Maybe out of shame. Maybe because they realized they'd stayed silent for too long. Back in our backyard, Mary's party grew by the minute. Faces kept showing up at the gate. Some had left the main party, others came late, after receiving a shared invite. A young mother came over to me and placed her hand on my shoulder. I didn't know it happened like that. But after watching the video, I felt I had to be here. For Mary. And for my daughter too. Her little girl ran up to Mary, sat beside her wheelchair and held out a small pouch. "You like bracelets? I made this for you." Mary took it, beaming. For the first time in days that smile was free, no longer strained by hesitation. I received 2 more messages from unsaved numbers. One said, "That video was the gentlest punch I've ever felt. And I haven't been able to sleep since." The other read, "I stayed quiet before when I saw something wrong. Thank you for speaking up for so many of us." I looked up at Mary, laughing with a new friend, her hair dancing in the breeze, face glowing. And I knew that video wasn't just for a party. It was for everyone who'd ever been ignored, cut out of the group photo, left off the list. This time, they were the ones walking out. And the truth had moved people to rise. The next morning, just as I finished brewing my first cup of coffee, my phone lit up with over 30 unread notifications, texts, missed calls. Even emails with subject lines in all caps. We need to talk about yesterday. I didn't even need to open them. I knew who they were from. Jenna. And I didn't need to guess what they said. I'd played this game long enough to know exactly how my sister reacts when the truth slips out of her control. As I was washing my mug, my mom called, for the first time in 2 months. Did you really have to make such a scene? I didn't answer. I mean, it was Tyler's birthday, we could have settled this privately. I cut her off, voice steady and cold. Mom, family isn't an excuse for cruelty disguised as privacy. Mary was excluded. Publicly. I just told the truth. She sighed on the other end. I hate being in the middle. You're not in the middle, you stayed silent. I hung up before she could say anything else. That afternoon, Jenna started performing. Her first Facebook post was titled, "The Untold Story, When Kindness is Twisted into a Publicity Stunt." She rambled about an unfortunate misunderstanding, a sister who overreacted, and a child more influenced by her mother than her reality. The comments were mixed, some supported her, some clearly uncomfortable. But then, the silence broke. A fellow mom and friend commented bluntly, "I was there, I saw the video, and I know exactly who's twisting the truth." Another stranger shared Mary's clip with the caption, "She helped plan the whole party, then got excluded because of her wheelchair." The post spread like wildfire, over 4,000 shares in a few hours. Comments poured in, outraged, empathetic, heartbroken. "This is ableism, soft-spoken but no less brutal. I'm disabled and this happened to me too. She's only 13 but handled it more gracefully than most adults." Jenna fired back again. This time, she changed tactics, not just attacking me, but manipulating the truth. She posted a vague status. "Some things are edited. Some kids are coached to say what adults want them to." I just sighed. That's always been Jenna's way. When she can't control the situation, she controls the story. 2 days later, Mary went back to school. When I picked her up, her face looked tense. "What happened?" "Tyler told people you made the video, that I was invited, but you hacked the email and deleted the invite." I looked at Mary. She didn't cry. But the exhaustion in her eyes was unmistakable. The kind that comes from fighting too long while the one who hurt you just keeps going. "Do you believe that?" "No. But it still hurts." I squeezed Mary's hand. "Some people can't stand to look in the mirror, and when that mirror is a video playing in front of 50 people, they'll do anything to blind others." Mary pressed her lips together. "I just don't get why people believe Jenna so easily." I gave a small, sad smile. "Because Jenna's a great actress, but you? You have the courage to be real." That evening, another parent sent me a screenshot from a private Facebook group. "Are we teaching our kids to hurt others just because they're different?" The post didn't mention names, but everyone knew it was about Mary. Underneath were hundreds of comments. "This reminds us, silence in the face of injustice is complicity. I once looked away when a kid in a wheelchair was being left out. After this I feel ashamed." Another wrote, "I'm a teacher. I'm going to show this video in class so my students learn that being different is never a reason to be excluded." I read every word, heart swelling with a feeling I couldn't name. It wasn't victory. It was a wound starting to heal. Thanks to the light. 3 days later, Jenna texted, "This has gone too far, we should have talked privately." I replied once, briefly. "It didn't go too far, your silence did." I didn't respond again. Because for the first time in years, I didn't owe an explanation to someone who never wanted to understand. One Friday afternoon, as I was cleaning the kitchen, Mary wheeled in holding a silver envelope with a sparkling star on it. She handed it to me, her face unreadable. Not quite excited, not suspicious either. Just cautious. Like she'd learned every invitation deserves a second look. I opened it. Neat handwriting appeared across the card. "Mary, I hope you can come to my birthday party next week. You're the first person I want to invite, Ellie. I looked up. Mary was watching me, waiting for a reaction. I smiled. Ellie, is she the girl who gave you the bracelet that day, right? Yes, I didn't think she'd actually remember me. Not because you drew attention, Mary, but because you made an impression. Mary nodded slightly, her eyes softening. Should I go? You were invited, not out of pity, but because they see you. The party that day wasn't extravagant. It was simple and cozy, held in Ellie's backyard with cookies, juice, and a few small games. But what stood out was a hand-painted watercolor sign at the entrance. Everyone is welcome. Mary was welcomed as a true friend. No one avoided her, no one pretended. A little boy brought Mary a chocolate-frosted cupcake. This one doesn't have peanuts. Ellie said you're allergic. Mary laughed softly, then whispered, It's been a long time since someone remembered something like that about me. That evening, when Mary got home, she slipped off the paper bracelet she'd worn around her wrist, the simple kind guests wear to confirm they're part of the party. She looked at the printed words. You belong here. Then she didn't say a word, just stuck it onto the mirror in her bedroom, right next to a photo of her tying bows on party favors. I sat down beside her in the warm yellow glow of her bedroom light. Mary turned to me and asked softly, Mom, do you think all of this was worth it? I took a deep breath. Yes, because if you hadn't spoken up, people would still believe silence is easier, that hurting you wouldn't have consequences. Mary nodded. I was scared of being hated, called trouble, seen as a drama queen. You didn't cause drama, you brought clarity. And no one should be ashamed of choosing truth. After a moment, she asked, Tyler, do you think he'll change? I didn't know, but I answered honestly. Maybe not yet, maybe someday, but either way, you're not responsible for how others respond to the truth. Mary closed her eyes for a second, then smiled. Then, I think I'm okay. I'm not as sad as I thought I'd be. That's because you were brave enough not to stay silent. The next day, I received an email from a teacher at Mary's school. She said that after the video, several students visited the counseling office and requested to start a peer support group. A place where anyone who felt excluded or alone could find a safe space. The group's name? Mary's Table. The teacher wrote. Mary didn't ask to be the leader. But she shows up to every meeting, listens, gives thoughtful suggestions, and remembers every child's name. I read the message and quietly cried in the car before I could bring myself to go inside. Not because I was sad, but because my daughter had finally learned what took me nearly a lifetime to understand. You do not need permission to exist. That night, Mary sat on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, holding a mug of hot cocoa. She looked up at the fading spring sky, her brows slightly furrowed. Mom, if you could go back, would you do anything differently? I thought for a moment. No, because if I didn't speak up, you might have believed silence was right. And I couldn't let you learn the wrong lesson. Mary stayed quiet for a while, then turned to me, her deep blue eyes shining like a lake after rain. I don't think I'll ever forget it. I nodded. You don't have to forget. Just don't let it hold you back. Remember just enough to never let it happen again. The next morning, as I walked past Mary's room, I saw her pinning a small slip of paper onto her new weekly planner. I looked closer. Written in purple marker, it said, I don't have to make others comfortable to be accepted. I stood still for a moment. And I knew from this point on, she would move forward with a heart strong enough, not because it had never been broken, but because she dared to walk through the pain, with her head held high. Mary's story isn't just about a brave girl who was excluded from a party. It's a wake-up call about how society often sidelines those who are different. Silence is never the solution, and kindness doesn't mean submission. When Mary spoke her truth, she didn't just reclaim her voice, she made space for every child who's ever been overlooked to be seen. Sometimes the smallest acts, a video, a sentence, an invitation, can shift how we treat one another. What do you think about Mary's story? What would you do if your child were in her shoes? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to follow the channel for more powerful stories about family and the lessons they teach us.